Hello everyone, this is R.S. Miller at the endtimenews.org and today is May 14th, 2013. Israeli tanks, bulldozers invade northeast Gaza Strip. Israeli tanks and bulldozers have carried out an incursion into northeastern areas of the Gaza Strip, local sources say. A number of Israeli tanks and bulldozers infiltrated the Palestinian-owned lands in the town of Beit Hanan on Monday. The Israeli forces also entered Beit Hanan last week, razing Palestinian farmlands and forcing the farmers to leave the area. Israel has carried out a number of incursions into Gaza in the past weeks, including 3 airstrikes on the southern town of Khan Yunis and near the town of Rafah in southern Gaza in late April. Report goes on to say that, according to Israeli Walla website, the Israeli army is preparing to launch Operation Pillar of Defense 2 against the Gaza Strip in a bid to eliminate Hamas resistance movement. Syria demands foreign fighters leave or get killed. Syria Prime Minister Wael al-Halqi said Monday that the armed rebels in Syria have 2 options: return to where they came from or be killed. The minister's remarks came during a session of the ministerial committee tasked with implementing the political program outlined by President Bashar al-Assad recently. According to the state-run Sana news agency, al-Halqi stressed that the Syrian people are determined to combat terrorism and restore security and stability to Syria. He added that 2 options remain for the mercenary terrorist groups: either to return to where they came from or be killed by the Syrian armed forces, indicating that the government's doors are wide open to whoever wants to return to the right path. Missing fighter jet crashes near Syria border, Turkey says. Turkish officials said Monday that a missing fighter jet crashed and its fuselage and debris has been found in a mountainous area close to the border with Syria. Selahattin Sarah, the governor of Osmaniye province, said that rescue teams were still searching for its pilot, who radioed that he was ejecting before contact was lost. The military said earlier it had lost contact with the F-16's jet over Osmaniye, which lies some 50 kilometers or 30 miles from the border with Syria. Private NTV television, citing unnamed military sources, said the crash was most likely accidental. In June, Syrian forces shot down a Turkish military reconnaissance plane, escalating tensions between the 2 neighbors. According to a BBC report, the dead body of the F-16 fighter jet pilot has been found near Turkey's border with Syria. The jet fighter, which is based in the 5th Main Jet Command in the northern province of Amasya, had been performing an operational flight. The Turkish military said it had lost touch with the aircraft at 14:15 local time. People living around the village of Yarpuz, about 16 miles north of the Syrian border, said that they had heard a loud bang like an explosion, according to local media. U.S. mountain snowmelt worries researchers. Warming temperatures in the United States causes abnormal snowpack melting, which can lead to floods and wildfires, the USGS said. The World Meteorological Organization said 2012 was the 9th warmest year on record, despite a cooling El Niño weather pattern earlier in the year. It also marked the 27th consecutive year that the global temperatures were higher than the 1961 through 1990 averages. A study from the U.S. Geological Survey found snowpack in the Rocky Mountains starting in the 1980s is starting earlier in the year. A new study links temperature patterns to 30-year snowpack declines. Runoff from the Rockies accounts for around 70% of the water supply for western U.S. residents, and the timing affects everything from hydroelectric dams to flooding and wildfires. Fish kill on Pope County, Minnesota area lakes widespread. In Pope County, Minnesota, winter 2013 wasn't just long for humans. Area fish were affected by the harsh conditions as well. Fish kill was widespread this year, with thousands of dead fish lining the shores of area lakes last weekend that the ice is now off. It was pretty severe on Lake Ann, said Dean Beck of the Department of Natural Resources, DNR Fisheries Office in Glenwood. He said a fish kill like the one seen on Lake Ann is common after a harsh winter, particularly in shallower lakes that are nutrient enriched. He explained that the bacterial decay process under the ice uses up the oxygen in the water. Members of the sunfish family, such as crappies and bluegill, were the hardest hit. Things were looking good until the end of February, said Beck, but the heavy snow and cold temperatures after that were enough to push things over the edge, contributing to widespread fish kills across the area. Now here's an article that absolutely should make America and Americans in general rethink our support for the Syrian rebels. Syrian rebel in cannibalistic shock video. Rebels fighting against Syrian strongman Bashar Assad's forces have published a shock video showing one of them eating the heart of a dead rival. Some in Israel saw the video as further proof that the U.S. is pursuing a wrong-headed Middle East policy. David Havery of the Samaria Regional Council commented on the video, saying that Syrian rebels are committing war crimes and proud to display this on the internet. If these animals win the war, if these animals win the war, they will be glad to eat our hearts and abuse our women. The USA's light-headed actions in the Middle East are a threat to Israel, he added. Meanwhile, deadly weekend car bombings in a southern Turkish city have galvanized domestic opposition to the government's steadfast support for Syrian rebels amid fears that Turkey is being dragged into the bloody conflict across its borders, the Los Angeles Times reported. The chaos of Syria has been transported here, said Farouk Logoglu, deputy chairman of the opposition Republic People's Party, speaking Monday from the stunned town of Reyhanli, close to the Syrian border. This is a direct result of the government's Syria policy. Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan has allowed Turkish territory to be used as a logistics and organizing base for armed rebels opposed to Assad. Now, I'll place a link to the video in the box below, but I have to warn you, this is only for the brave-hearted because this video is extremely graphic. Friends, we are living in the last days. Many of the signs the prophets and Jesus spoke about are taking place right before our eyes. That is, if you have eyes to see. Far too many people are totally blind to what's going on around them. They choose to believe a lie. Speaking in my own opinion, I do not care to have my country, America, associated with such barbaric savagery as is demonstrated in the video I just spoke about. America is supposed to be a symbol of justice and righteousness. We are supposed to be the good guys. Now don't get me wrong. America is the country that I love. It is where I was born and raised. It is the country I served in the military and would do so again in her defense. As far as I'm concerned, America is the greatest country on the earth, and I have every intention to spend my last days right here. Now, having said that, there are terrorist organizations that refer to America as the Big Satan. Speak of a case of where the pot calls the kettle black. Whether we are the Big Satan or not, we can be considered guilty by association. Becoming bedfellows with evildoers in order to accomplish an agenda also makes us equally culpable. Since America uses and assists the rebels to effect change in Syria, then we are at least in part also responsible for the atrocities which are committed by those we assist. As an individual, if you knowingly assist a bank robber in any way, you are just as guilty as they are, and trying to convince the judge otherwise would be a lesson in futility. Society has entered an era of lawlessness. This lawlessness ranges from individuals to groups to organizations and even governments. This lawlessness is the emergence of the Antichrist system. The more lawlessness abounds, the closer we are to the end, the return of Jesus Christ, and Judgment Day. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the Apostle Paul was speaking of events preceding the day of the Lord. In verse 7 he says, "For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the workings of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this reason, God will send them a strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness." That day is rapidly approaching, and the signs of the times are evident. Can you see? Are you saved? Follow the link in the box below and pray the prayer of salvation with all sincerity, and you will be saved. May God bless you.